Have you seen my cream Birkin? I asked my husband James, frantically searching through my closet. The vintage bag, a testament to years of careful saving and my career successes, was nowhere to be found. In fact, my entire designer collection seemed to have vanished overnight. My name is Sophie Bennett, and at 34, I'd built a life I was proud of. As a successful art curator, I carefully curated my own collection of designer bags, each one representing a milestone, a victory, a moment worth celebrating. But now, standing in my walk-in closet after our weekly family dinner, I felt my stomach drop as I realized more than just the Birkin was missing. Maybe you moved them, James suggested, but I could hear the doubt in his voice. I hadn't. My bags were my pride and joy, each one stored in its dust bag, perfectly arranged on dedicated shelves. The Channel Classic flap from my first major gallery opening. The limited edition Birkin I found at a vintage auction. The Lady Dyer I treated myself to after securing my dream job. All gone. Then my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. My sister-in-law Olivia had posted a story. My heart stopped as I saw the image. There she was, posing at a high-end restaurant, my cream Birkin casually slung over her shoulder. The caption read, "Living my best life with my new collection." "James," I called out, my voice shaking. "You need to see this." He came over, took one look at my phone, and his face darkened. "She wouldn't," he started, but we both knew she would. Olivia had always been envious of my success, constantly making snide remarks about how some people had it easy. I scrolled through her feed. There were more photos. My Lady Dyer at a rooftop bar, my vintage Chanel at a beach club. She'd taken them all. And worse, she was parading them around like they were hers. "Call her," James said firmly, already reaching for his phone. But I stopped him. "Wait," I said, my mind racing. "I want to see how far she'll go with this." You see, Olivia had always lived in the shadow of her perfect brother. While James worked his way up in architectural engineering, she bounced between jobs, relying on their parents' support. When we got married, she'd made it clear she thought I wasn't good enough for her brother, despite, or perhaps because of, my success. The next day, I watched as more photos appeared. Olivia at exclusive venues, my bags prominently displayed. Her friends commented, gushing about her amazing new collection. She was living out her socialite fantasies with my hard-earned possessions. But what made my blood run cold was her latest post. She was at a pool party, my cream Birkin sitting dangerously close to the water's edge. That bag was worth more than just money. It represented the first major auction I'd overseen, the moment I knew I'd made it in my career. I decided to play the long game. At the next family dinner, I acted normally, even complimenting Olivia on her new accessories. She preened under the attention, launching into elaborate stories about how she'd acquired each piece. "This Birkin," she said, patting my bag like it was a pet. "I have a special connection with my dealer in Paris. You wouldn't believe the deal I got." I saw my mother-in-law Martha beam with pride. She'd always favored Olivia, excusing her behavior as youthful spirit. Now she was practically glowing, thinking her daughter had finally made it. "Oh, the Birkin is special," I agreed, sipping my wine. "It's quite rare, actually. Limited edition with some unique markings that make it easily identifiable." I saw a flicker of unease cross Olivia's face, but she quickly masked it. "Well, that's why I had to have it. I know quality when I see it." That night, Olivia posted more photos, but this time there was a desperation to them. She had to maintain the illusion, even as my words about the bag's identifiable features clearly rattled her. Then it happened, exactly what I'd been waiting for. A notification popped up on my phone. Olivia's latest post showed my cream Birkin, now sporting a large red wine stain across its front. Her caption was a mess of crying emojis and a dramatic story about an accident at a charity event. I watched as comments flooded in, her friends offering sympathy and suggestions for cleaning. But I knew better. That stain wasn't an accident. It was panic. My words about the bag's identifiable features had spooked her, and now she was trying to create an excuse for why the bag would never be seen again. "It's time," I told James, showing him the post. He nodded grimly, understanding what came next. I had all the evidence I needed, her social media trail, the documented theft, and now the deliberate damage to a bag worth more than her yearly income. But this wasn't just about the bags anymore. This was about years of manipulation, of her trying to tear me down while simultaneously copying everything I had. As I prepared my next move, I thought about all the times Olivia had tried to undermine me, how she'd told James I was new money and didn't understand class, how she'd whispered to his parents that my success must be due to connections rather than hard work. Well, she was about to learn exactly what kind of connections I had and just how costly her little fashion show would turn out to be. I picked up my phone and made 2 calls, one to my insurance company and one to my lawyer. The game Olivia had started was about to take a very different turn. Looking at her latest post one more time, I allowed myself a small smile. She had no idea that while she was playing dress up with my bags, I was orchestrating something that would change our family dynamic forever. Sometimes the best revenge isn't swift or dramatic. It's watching someone slowly realize they dug their own grave, one designer bag at a time. The next morning, as my lawyer compiled the evidence from Olivia's social media spree, an urgent text lit up my phone. It was from her. The Birkin had an accident, but I can totally fix it. Know any good cleaners? I left her message unread. Instead, I focused on the email from my insurance company confirming what I already knew. My collection was covered for theft and damage, but filing a claim would require a police report. Perfect. You don't have to do this, James said softly as I prepared to leave for the police station. We could handle it within the family. I turned to face my husband, seeing the conflict in his eyes. No, James. We've handled things within the family for too long. That's why she thinks she can get away with this. At the police station, I laid out everything: the theft, the social media evidence, the deliberate damage. The officer taking my statement raised his eyebrows when I mentioned the value of the Birkin alone. And you can prove these items belong to you? He asked. I pulled out my folder. Authentication certificates, original purchase receipts, insurance documentation, and professional photographs of my collection taken for insurance purposes just 6 months ago. I'd always been meticulous about documenting my investments. As I finished filing the report, my phone exploded with notifications. Olivia had posted again, this time, a tearful video about how accidents happen and true friends understand. The comments were full of heart emojis and supportive messages from people who had no idea they were witnessing evidence of a crime. Then came the family texts. First, my mother-in-law, Sophie dear, Olivia feels terrible about the bag. Can't we discuss this over tea? Followed by my father-in-law, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. Family should stick together. I forwarded each message to my lawyer without responding. That afternoon, Olivia showed up at my door unannounced. Her eyes were red, either from crying or an expertly applied makeup technique to appear distraught. I was going to return them, she blurted out before I could speak. It was just a bit of fun, showing them off. But then everyone thought they were mine, and it felt so good. Where are they now? I asked calmly. She shifted uncomfortably. In my apartment. Well, most of them. The Birkin, I panicked when you mentioned it being identifiable. I thought if it was damaged, you wouldn't want it back anyway. So you deliberately ruined $100,000 bag because you got scared. Her face went pale. 100,000. The limited edition cream Birkin you spilled wine on. Yes, that's the current market value, not to mention the other pieces you borrowed. She started crying in earnest now. I'll pay you back. Please, Sophie, don't do this. Mom and Dad can help. Like they helped with your credit card debt, or your failed boutique, or your rent when you got evicted. I watched her flinch with each example. No, Olivia. This time you're facing the consequences of your actions. You'll destroy this family, she shouted, switching from tears to anger in an instant. You did that when you decided to steal from me, I replied, closing the door on her protests. Inside, James was waiting, having heard everything. She's right about one thing, he said quietly. This will change everything. Everything already changed when she took my things, I responded. She just didn't expect me to stand up for myself. That evening, we received an invitation to an emergency family dinner at his parents' house. Martha's message was clear. This needed to be handled privately, quietly, in a way that wouldn't tarnish the family name. We should go, James said. At least hear them out. I agreed, but not before making one final call to my lawyer. Everything was in motion now, and no amount of family pressure would stop it. Walking into Martha and George's immaculate dining room, I could feel the tension. Olivia sat at the table, eyes downcast, while Martha fluttered around, placing plates with trembling hands. "Sophie, dear," Martha began as soon as we sat down. "We understand you're upset, but surely we can find a solution that keeps this incident within the family." I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. "You mean like these incidents?" I started playing a slideshow of Olivia's social media posts, each one showing her with my stolen bags. Or this one. The final image showed the ruined Birkin. "We'll replace everything," George offered quickly. "Whatever it costs." "The police report has already been filed," I said calmly. "The insurance claim is in process. This isn't about money anymore." Olivia's head snapped up. "Police report? You actually went to the police?" "What did you expect?" I asked, meeting her gaze steadily. "That I just write off thousands of dollars in stolen and damaged property because we're family?" "But I was going to return them," she protested. "After you ruined them? After you paraded them around pretending they were yours? After you deliberately damaged an irreplaceable piece when you got scared of being caught?" The room fell silent. Martha had stopped her nervous movements. George was staring at his plate, and Olivia finally looked afraid. "What happens now?" James asked, breaking the tension. I stood up, gathering my things. Now we let the legal system handle this. And maybe, just maybe, Olivia will finally learn that actions have consequences. As we left, I heard Martha burst into tears and Olivia start shouting about betrayal. But for the first time since this whole ordeal began, I felt at peace. Sometimes protecting yourself means being willing to weather the storm of family disapproval. The real question was, what would happen when the police arrived at Olivia's door tomorrow morning? The police arrived at Olivia's apartment early the next morning. I didn't need to be there. The evidence spoke for itself. By afternoon, all my remaining bags had been recovered, and Olivia was facing charges of grand theft and property damage. What happened next surprised everyone, especially Martha and George. Instead of bailing their daughter out immediately, they took a step back. Perhaps they finally realized that constantly shielding Olivia from consequences had led to this moment. "We failed her," George admitted during a private conversation with James. "We should have stopped this behavior years ago." The family dynamic shifted dramatically. Martha, who had always rushed to defend Olivia, now sat in silence during family gatherings. The reality of her daughter's actions, not just the theft, but the calculated deception that followed, had shaken her perfect family image. Olivia, facing actual consequences for perhaps the first time in her life, changed too. The initial anger and blame shifting gave way to something else. Shame. Real, genuine shame. 3 months after the incident, I received an unexpected letter. It was handwritten, tear-stained in places. "Sophie, I've spent weeks trying to write this. Nothing sounds right. How do you apologize for not just stealing from someone, but trying to become them? Because that's what I was doing. Every time I carried one of your bags, posted a photo, told a lie about where I got them, I was trying to be you. I've started therapy. Turns out I have a lot to work through. My therapist says I've been competing with an impossible standard, not just you, but this perfect image I created in my head. I know sorry doesn't fix anything. I know you may never forgive me, but I need you to know that facing consequences for my actions was the wake-up call I needed. Olivia." I showed the letter to James. He read it silently, then looked at me with questioning eyes. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," I said slowly, "that real change deserves a chance. The charges weren't dropped, that wasn't my call to make. But I did write a letter to the court about Olivia's efforts to make amends. She ended up with probation and mandatory counseling, plus a repayment plan for the damaged Birkin. 6 months later, Olivia invited me for coffee. She looked different, more grounded somehow. She had a job now, a real one, working at a local art gallery. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "I start at the bottom," she explained, stirring her coffee. "Filing, answering phones. But I love it. For the first time, I'm building something that's actually mine." I nodded, remembering my own early days in the art world. "That's how it starts." "I used to be so jealous," she admitted. "You made everything look so easy. I never saw the work, the years of effort. I just wanted the end result." "Nothing worth having comes easy," I replied, thinking of my own journey. Our relationship would never be the same as before. Too much had happened. But something new was growing in its place, something built on honesty and respect rather than competition and resentment. Martha and George changed too. They stopped enabling Olivia's behavior and started supporting her growth instead. Family dinners became less about maintaining appearances and more about genuine connection. As for my designer collection, I still have it, though the cream Birkin was irreplaceable. But now each piece tells a different story, not just of professional milestones, but of standing up for myself, of refusing to let family ties become chains that bind me to toxic behavior. Last week, Olivia handed me her first paycheck from the gallery. For the repayment plan, she said, "I know it's just a fraction of what I owe, but it's a start." I finished for her. Sometimes the happy endings aren't about everything returning to normal. They're about building something better from the ruins of what was broken. Olivia's actions had shattered our family's facade, but in doing so, she created space for something more authentic to grow. Looking back, I realized that the real value of my designer collection wasn't in the bags themselves, but in what they taught us all about worth, respect, and the true meaning of family. Some lessons come with heavy price tags, but their worth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in growth, understanding, and the courage to change. The cream Birkin might be gone, but what replaced it, genuine respect, honest relationships, and real personal growth, is worth far more than any designer bag could ever be.